This is a clip from
Dungeons and Dragons Horror Stories.
Check the description for the full episode.
This isn't even a story. It's a string of events that just led to... God, it was actually like a horror movie. When it's like they meet someone, everything seems fine, and there's little things. And then it finally just, it builds up to it. I think, I'm not going to use his real name because he would be the kind of person who would listen to this podcast. What's a really fucking annoying kid name?
Sheen.
Nicholas.
Oh, okay.
Sheen.
I was gonna say
Oh,
Sheen.
Nicholas.
Sheen could be good too.
Sheen is pretty bad.
I'll do Sheen.
Dusty.
Dusty.
I like Dusty.
I'll do Dusty. Dusty's close. So over like the how many years ago was this? I don't know, a few years ago. Over the summer we'd have like a weekly game night or D&D thing. We'd switch off depending on what people were in the mood for. And then one day there was a new person, and there were, I want to say, about between 6 to 8 regulars, but like people would switch off enough that it was manageable for the DM. And then one week we had a new person, and he's like, "Oh, I'm Dusty." We're like, "Oh, okay." Like, Dusty seemed a little off, but he was like fine. He's like, "Oh, he seems a little awkward."
Okay.
Just because when we would if you ever like gone to these things, you know, like you're getting dinner, you know, you might get like takeout or something delivered, and everyone pitches in some money. The first bad sign was him just looking around. He's like, "I don't have money on me." We're like, "Oh, that's fine." Because our system was like, "Oh, if someone doesn't have money, you know, we'll cover you this time. Then next time you cover somebody else."
Oh, there was no next time.
Well, to this day, he still owes someone $20 who keeps talking about it.
Are you kidding me? He still talks about it?
Yeah, he's fucking vengeful.
Wow.
Like whenever
What an asshole.
Like there's a list of stuff he did, but whenever I mention him, he always goes, "And you still owes me $20." It's like,
Let that go.
Yeah.
$20? Christ.
But yeah, Bill was like, "Oh," but he's like, "Guys, I don't have any money," and we're just like, "Oh, it's fine." But he looked like really fucking serious when he said it. Like he said it like he was gonna have to kill somebody.
What?
And that's when I really looked at his eyes for the first time.
Oh my god.
If you ever seen like Tom Cruise in interviews, like in the 90s when he was really into Scientology. Yeah.
There's definitely a spark, and it's not a good one.
Kind of. It's like they're just kind of dead eyes. And I was like, what? He's like, "I don't have any money." I was like, maybe he's joking. And that's when I first really looked at him. I'm like, oh, he's serious. He's not joking. He didn't say that in a really somber tone as a joke. Oh, it's fine. And then we're like, all right, we were playing, I think Munchkin or something, some kind of like some tabletop game. Like, all right, let's do some D&D. Like, we'll make our characters. What are you gonna be? It's like, I'm gonna be an elf, and she has 2 blades and a bow. Like, what class is that gonna be? And for some reason, he got really fucking angry about having to pick a class.
What?
So he's like, "Oh, I could be a ranger, a warrior." And I don't know, he was getting really miffed about it. And it was just like, all right. And then he finally like picked one. It's like, all right, you know, we're all doing the languages and stuff. And the DM's, you know, giving the setting, like, you're in this dwarf, you're going to be starting this dwarven city. There's this and that around. He's like, "Oh, don't forget to pick your languages." He's instantly like Draconic and Infernal. It's like, of course.
Oh.
But when you played the game, he was fine. So I let everything else go. I was like, all right, it went okay. And this kind of thing went on for a few weeks. But when I realized there was something off was when we did it at his house for once. And we were playing, I think it's called Descent. It's a pretty fun board game. And his older sister and her fiance had come back to the house. And I don't know where I think he was in the army or something. Like he had been off doing something important. I'll just say that. And so they come home, and she's like, "Oh, hi, Dusty." And he goes like, "Oh, hi, what's her sister be? Kayla. Hi, Kayla. Check this out." And he grabs a card off the table and he runs up and he shows it to them. And he goes, "This card allows you to put down 3 traps at once per game."
Oh my god.
He's really fucking excited about it.
Is he a fucking goblin?
And I will never forget the look on his sister's face when she goes, "Oh, that's really cool, Dusty."
Oh no.
And then I realized it's like, it's very clear they don't give a shit. But this entire game, one player is basically the evil dungeon master, and like they try to stop you when you're going through the dungeon. And he had been very quiet during this game. But then when like his family came, then he like grabs a card, runs up, and starts bragging about like how he's gonna get all of us. And it was just kind of strange.
Yeah.
And then, but then after that happened during the rest of the game, he got really, really sadistic. Like he was laughing like a supervillain after everything he did, and like rubbing his hands together. And then like he picked up his cat and was like petting it in his lap, and the cat was like trying to get out of his lap. He'd pull it back. We're like, oh, this is getting weird. But then then we left, and I saw his friends like, I asked one of my friends, I was like, do you know where Dusty came from? He's like, I think he was like, he's Bill's friend, I think. He's like, oh, all right. So I guess to go to the same school, that makes sense. And then like he would DM because he didn't want to be class railroaded again. But then he was a very railroading person, and apparently he had written this huge thing of lore for us to explore. But instead, we wanted to form a restaurant inside one of the cities and started seriously preparing for it. We're like, oh no, we need to get fryers. Like, all right, I'll get some gold. And he slams his fist on the table. A dragon attacks the city. It's burning everything to the ground. Roll. And then the city ended up burning down. And then he's like, now the adventure begins. And this one fucking hero just goes, man, this campaign's shitty. I think other boys should DM next time. And he looked really unhappy. And the next time we saw him to DM, he sat like in this chair slumped down, and he had the dead eyes again. And we're like, Dusty, what's wrong? He's like, I'm sorry, I'm really fucking tired from work today. And then one of the other people, Bill, he's like, Dusty, didn't you work like 3 hours today? He's like, yeah, I worked from 9 to noon, but work is just really, it's hard. Dusty worked at a call center. And so he's sitting there, and then we realized it's because other guys said that his campaign was shitty, and now he's mad about it. So after he half-heartedly went through it, we're like, we'll have someone else DM. And this was the beginning of the end. Because I don't know how he can... At the time, I didn't know how he convinced him of it, but looking back, it was, he just wanted to appease him, to get him away from him. He had a custom class that was basically Tony Stark. He was like, I have a powerful suit of cursed dwarven armor or something like that. And he's like, but that's a drawback. Whenever I take actions, it generates heat tokens. And then I have to take a single turn to vent heat. And so it'd be like, no, we're getting our mount. And he's just like, activate my super speed. It's like, okay. I roll a strength check to lift up the rock. I roll using heat, which allows me to add plus 10 strength. And then we're just like,
oh my fucking.
And we're looking at the DM, and he looks at me, and his eyes, he looks so fucking helpless. And I understand he's trapped with this shit.
This is.
And then finally, in the middle of a fight, I don't remember what happened, but I just remember the sentence, I crush its head in my hands. And then Bill goes, hey, Dusty, I think your class is a little overpowered. And he goes, no, it's not. And I'm like, yeah, Dusty, it is. He goes, you think it's overpowered? He stands up, he grabs a wine bottle off the table, and he goes, all right, I'm going to go outside for a while. And then he takes the bottle, opens the front door, and just shuts it. And we're like, what the fuck do we do?
I was anti-Dusty up until that point. That rules.
No, it doesn't. Because
That's so you just stole wine. You just walked outside to drink.
well, because you know
What?
we
That's
sat
a
there for a
fucking
few
power
minutes.
move.
No, it's not, and I'll tell you why. He's like, what do we do? Oh, okay. I know, let's just play the game. And so we played the game without him. And we had a great time. We played in 4 hours, kept playing. God, it must have been nearly 5 a.m. We were having so much fun. We're just like, we're not working tomorrow. Like, this is great. Like, okay, you know, it's getting late. You know, we need to go before the sun rises. We open the porch, turn the light.
He was still
He's
there.
fucking on the porch, laying there with the dead eyes. And he just looks up at us. He hadn't touched the wine bottle.
All right,
What?
man. Fuck Dusty.
Fuck Dusty, dude.
Yeah,
What?
forget Dusty.
And so he's just laying there looking up at us, and we're like, you're still here? Like, we thought you went home. He's like, no, I just came outside to think about my class a little bit more. Like, Dusty, it's been like 4 or 5
Think
hours.
about my class.
Yeah.
He
it's like-
needed some time.
We're like,
needed
it's been
some
4
time.
hours. And he's like, and he looks up, he's like, well, I didn't know how long it had been. I sometimes lose track of time when I start thinking as critically and as deeply as I do. Like, okay, Dusty, like, I'll see you later,
Okay.
you know, good
All
luck
right,
at Target
Dusty.
tomorrow. So, and then a week later, it was one of the sessions he didn't show up. We had most of the regular crew there. And we're like, you know, Dusty's class is fucking bullshit. Who allowed it? The DM's like, well, I wasn't going to have to deal with his shit. Like, so I tried to tolerate it, but he won more and more stuff, and I don't want him like this. And then he's like, you know, it's all Bill's fault anyways. He's like, what are you talking about? I don't know Dusty. Dusty came with Kevin. Then Kevin's like, what do you mean? I thought he was your friend. And then everyone's talking like, what the fuck? And then we all go silent. We realize no one fucking knew how he got there.
He was just like,
Everyone just kind of,
How did
there
he
were like 4
infiltrate?
people who kind of knew him from school. And we figured out eventually that like he was talking with 3 of them and they were going to like their car or something. And I guess they all had assumed that he was with one of the other people. So they didn't bring it up and then they just let him go with them.
wow.
So it was just like, oh, there's 3 people. And it's like, oh, you know, it's like a car, you know, it could fit all 4 of us. Like, oh, we're going there. Like, cool, it's gotta be great. And it's like, oh, you know, if one of my friends came with somebody and like we're going somewhere, I wouldn't be like, oh,
Yeah,
who the fuck
nobody
is
would
that?
question it.
Yeah. It's just like,
What?
oh, yeah,
That's
someone knows him.
crazy, though. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Did he like mastermind this?
I don't know. Because I asked the
What the
DM about if he
hell?
knew him at all. He was like, well, the first time I saw him, he was wearing a fedora and a coat from the 18th century with a bunch of big buttons on it. He walked up to me at school and asked me about dragons. And so I answered, of course. And I was like, God damn it.
That's
Yeah.
nutty, dude. That's so nutty.
And so we figured out that it's like, oh, why the fuck would he do that? Like, he didn't even know they were going for D&D. Apparently, they were going to they were going to like some youth group. Not even a youth group. It was some kind of non-D&D function that he just attached himself to. And so I'm scratching my head and I'm like, how the fuck did this happen?
How does this happen? That's crazy.
Have you considered that Dusty is an angel in disguise?
Well,
Oh my god.
we asked like the kid we blame, like Kevin, how could you do this to us? He's like, I don't know. Like we have to ask him some stuff. Like, what's his phone number? He's like, I don't know. Like, what the fuck? What do you know? I know his Steam name. Fine. And so I type his Steam name into Google. So I'm like, I'm thinking the first link will be to a Steam, like his Steam link. And no,
Oh no.
the first
no.
link is a forum that said, my town looking for a master, willing slave. I'm like, what the fuck is that? It's so, of course I click on it and it's a large, it's some kind of forum.
My fucking god.
And the picture is quite clearly him. Except he has a fedora on, but he was dressed differently than we usually see him.
Oh yeah.
And he
What was
had like
wearing?
he was like I'm looking for something good. I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, here's some things I want you to do. I want you to cover a wooden spoon in Colgate toothpaste and shove it up my ass.
oh, what the
Yeah.
What
fuck?
the fuck?
I can't forget that specifically.
That's
Because
He's on
he wanted a wooden spoon with
That's-
Colgate toothpaste. Very specifically.
that is some next
That's
level
n-
shit.
that is a fucking
That is
That is
Dude,
such a precise fetish.
You'd
It's
have to
insane.
jerk off. You'd have to jerk off over
insane.
2 million times before that becomes attractive to you.
Yeah, and it was
Probably over 10 million times.
the thing was
He
like all his
ascended.
preferences were not like related. It was like a dartboard. He's like, I want the toothpaste, a spoon, but you know, I'm also really into diapers. I want to wear a diaper. And he's like, also,
What the
you can
fuck?
whip me, but if you do, you got to make me mac and cheese after. Just like this really weird, really specific shit.
Why?
All right, you can't fault the man for wanting mac and cheese. You
Yeah,
Can't
but
fault anybody for mac and cheese.
he's like, if you don't make me mac and cheese after the whipping, like it's not gonna
It's
work.
over, dude.
It was very specific, and so I'm
I
like,
can't get over the Colgate, dude.
yeah,
I
and
can't
so
get over that.
Well, that's what the diaper is for. Like it
yeah, and
loosens
so
you
I
up.
click
You
back.
need the diaper
and
after.
I look, and there's like 2 or 3 more links below it, and it's like similar like ads. Like he's going on every local forum, and it's like it's not like secret. It's like his
It's
internet
very
name,
much
I guess.
public.
It's him. It's his face, in like all of them.
That's
And so we're just like, what the fuck do we do about this now? It's just like, you know,
Yeah,
you can know someone who has a really, really fucking weird fetish.
but you
it's like, you know, if they keep it
can't
to
go to him and
themselves-
be like, "What is this?"
Oh well, we didn't think we didn't think
What?
clearly about that
Oh no.
because we're like, it's like, okay, no, we're just tired of him at this point. We're like, what do we do? And so we sat on it for a week, and then it turned out that he had been starting to shit talk the people who didn't approve of his Tony Stark class.
Oh.
And we're like, okay, now he's trying to divide and conquer. Like, we have to get rid of him now. And so we said, hey, Dusty, we tried to find your Steam name the other night, and we found some of your ads. We're not sure we could be really comfortable with someone like that. And so we're like messaging him on Steam, and it looks like a fucking crisis center in the White House because we're all like gathered around this computer, like, what do we say next? Like, I don't know. And he's like, wow, I knew you guys could be kind of shitty, but I didn't think that you couldn't be open-minded. Dude, I was like, look at each other, like, what does he mean that he thought we'd be open-minded?
No, I mean that is shitty, but you could have still just kicked him out.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Because we didn't want to just like ghost them. We're like, we need to tell them like why this is fucking weird. We're like, hey, you're talking shit about people after everything that's been going on, and we found all this, and it's weirding people out. But then we steadily realized that might have been his end game, and we didn't know what to feel about it.
What?
Because we're like,
that's his king.
because when people were like,
oh my god.
we're like, Dusty, like, stop it, like, fuck it, like, cut it out, fucking Dusty, like, I can't take this. It's like, oh god, was he getting off on that?
Mhm.
Like when he was on the porch for like 5 hours, like he didn't have his phone, the wine wasn't touched. What was he doing on that porch for all those hours after everyone shamed him?
He was thinking
was
about
like-
he was thinking about brushing his teeth, dude.
Oh fuck.
That's like a good psychological thriller.
Yeah, but
The mind of Dusty.
it's like if it was someone I'd known for a long time, had like a weird thing like that, it would have been like, okay. But this was moments after finding out that no one knew who he was, and they had just infiltrated
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
It's
like-
so many weird things.
Because it's like,
all at
okay,
once.
who is he? Like, no one knows who he is, and now we have
Too
this
much
very
information.
blatant, like, whip me and give me the mac and cheese, and it's like very, very shamelessly, very publicly, but we all missed it, and to this day, I don't think any of us have run into him again. I don't know where anyone would.
Let's reconnect. Let's get him on the
Let's
podcast.
get him on the podcast.
I mean, I know that he
Can we
ran into
help
him once.
Dusty? Can we help Dusty find somebody to shove a Colgate?
He had
up his
takers,
ass.
but
He had takers. Excuse
we
me.
saw some responses, but they're like, I'll message you my picture,
Oh.
and it was like a guy with like a fucking AC/DC logo and 53-year-old man. Like, okay, good luck. Maybe that's what he wants. But
Yikes.
yeah, no one saw him again except for a brief encounter where he tried to attach himself again through 2 other people, but then the third person was someone who was aware. He was like,
Wow.
oh yeah, like Dusty tried to get back because I was meeting 2 friends and Dusty was with one of them, and he just said hi and talked to me like nothing happened.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, you wouldn't. I never really thought about that. That yeah, if you were slightly acquaintanced with somebody, you could probably sneak your way into a friend group like that. Because who's gonna like, bring it up? Like, who the fuck is that? He can't come.
I'm actually speechless. That's amazing.
That's a great story.
Yeah, he just came, and then a few months later, he was gone. It was just like that one summer.
Like the wind.
He appeared and he was gone.